said the words like they were umbrellas, big and bright and guaranteed to keep us dry. Compersion, metamor, ethical non-monogamy. The first night she said them, we sat on our little balcony on 8th Street in Little Havana with the heat standing still and the ice in our glasses melting like bad intentions. Compersion is when you feel joy for your partner's joy, Chloe said, tucking a curl behind her ear. It's like the opposite of jealousy. What's the opposite of being replaced? I asked. She laughed, that small, cute laugh that made strangers assume she was light. You're not being replaced, Lucas. You're being loved in a way that has room. Room, it turned out, meant I learned the schedule of rich by accident. I learned the taste of breath mints I didn't buy. I learned what a word can do when it's held like a shield and swung like a sword. We met at a fundraiser on the beach behind a hotel that smelled like money and sunscreen. I'd cooked a vat of black beans big enough to baptize a baby in and watched donors pretend to love food I watched them throw away after 3 bites. Her job was to make rich people feel interesting in exchange for their checks. She teased me about plating. I teased her about donor napkins. We swapped numbers under a string of lights that made everyone look like a better version of themselves. Back then, my life was pots and burns and the brutal joy of starting a roux and not burning it. I was a line cook at a place in Wynwood where tourists took pictures of their salads and posted them like nature. I loved heat because it was honest. The stove never said it was cold for my growth. 6 months in, Chloe started dropping terms into conversations like vitamins. I read about compersion, she said. It's not natural at first, but people practice it and it becomes this deep sense of abundance. We're already abundant, I said, watching her make the French press like she was diffusing a bomb. We have a coffee we can't afford and a couch we bought off Facebook Marketplace that squeaks like a bird every time we look at it. It's not about money, she said, smile tight. It's about freedom. What kind? I asked. The kind that doesn't make me choose, she said. Between you and exploring. The heat sat on my chest. Are we broken? No, she said. We're modern. She introduced Rich 2 weeks after she introduced the words. Not to me, but to her calendar. On Wednesdays, she started dressing like the version of herself that moved differently through rooms. The air around her would smell like lemon and a cologne I didn't own. She would say, I have planning calls, with a brightness that felt like theater lights. When I got home late from the restaurant, there would sometimes be 2 wine glasses in the sink and lipstick on one and my own reflection in the other. Chloe would talk softly on the phone in the bathroom with the fan on, which made the words thicken into soup, but not enough to hide all the ingredients. We're not hiding, she said when I asked. We're just not performing monogamy for neighbors who don't pay our rent. I'm not performing anything, I said. I go to work, I come home, I sleep, I watch the Marlins lose with a loyalty they don't deserve. I plan to buy a better knife when mine cuts tomatoes like it has regrets. I thought that was enough. It is, she said, kissing my forehead like a mother sending a child to school. And I'm asking for more. At first, I tried to be good at the new game. I told myself love could be a bigger pot. I told myself jealousy was a low flame. A good cook could keep steady. I told myself Miami was a city where nobody pretended to be one thing. I told myself stories because, when you're tired, a story is a pillow. Chloe said the word metamor like a flower in a language 3 countries away. You and Rich aren't rivals, she said. You're metamors. You share me, and in some ways you join forces because you both love me. Batman and Robin, I said, except Robin never asked for this comic. You're not Robin, she said. You're your own hero. But the nights stacked on each other like plates after service, and the weight felt the same no matter how I arranged them. I learned Rich's existence, the way you learn the presence of an oven that's still radiating. The air has a temperature your skin can't explain. His name came slow in her mouth like she tested its salt. Then there was the night at the restaurant. We were slammed with a private party and a couple from Kindle who didn't understand why chef's choice didn't mean make my wife a burger. I had a burn blossoming on my wrist and a manager who kept saying, we're all hands, like he had any hand that had been near heat. I plated a grouper that shone like it wanted to be seen and stepped into the dining room for a second because stepping into a cooler wasn't enough. I saw Chloe at a table near the bar, Rich across from her. I'd never seen his face, only the absences it left behind. Seeing him felt like seeing a ghost and realizing the ghost had skin. He was handsome in the expensive way. Everything looked like it had been chosen by someone paid to style life for photos. Chloe waved me over with a laugh that asked me to be light. "Lucas, tell Rich about the jerk marinade. He thinks it's just soy sauce." "It's not," I said. Rich leaned back with his arms slung over the chair, the way you do when your day hasn't required any heavy lifting. "So you're like the artist," he said. "I love that for you." Chloe's eyes were bright in the way they get when she's curating a room. "Lucas is amazing," she said to Rich, as if I were across the street. "He's like dependable, like a really good bass layer." "A bechamel," I said, because when I'm nervous, I make a joke, and when it lands, I don't know if I'm saved or sentenced. She laughed, and her fingers brushed his hand on the table like punctuation. "Exactly," she said, "and you're the spice." She turned to me. "Don't be jealous. It's all love. Compersion." She said the last words slowly, like a lesson to a child. The bartender smiled at me in a way that only people who serve for a living know how to do, the smile that says, "You okay?" "Enjoy your evening," I said, because some parts of me are professional, even when my insides are a pan of oil that just reached smoking point. I walked back to the kitchen and held the prep table with both hands until the stainless steel told me something cold. After that, I told myself to get with the program. If compersion was a muscle, I needed to work it. So I did the thing Chloe said was equal play. I downloaded an app and said yes to a date with a woman named Maya who wore tattoos like weather and worked at a dog rescue and used exclamation points like confetti. We grabbed cortados in Wynwood on a Monday when Miami pretended to be a regular city. I told Maya I was in an open thing, and she nodded like we were comparing the weather. "So many umbrellas," she said, grinning. "You sure your umbrella's not just a sheet someone's holding over you?" "My umbrella's fine," I lied, and was surprised to hear how good I was at it. The date was easy. We talked about dogs and knives and the way rainstorms here start like a rumor and end like a joke. She touched my wrist where the new burn lived and said, "You cooked for a living and you let love burn you too?" with a smile that wasn't cruel. We parted without drama. I didn't bring her home because you don't bring a person into a room that has an audience. That night, Chloe exploded like a pan that had been poured into without warning. "You didn't clear tonight," she said, voice shaking the way the windows do when a storm flexes across the bay. "I told you I was going to Rich's." "You said Thursday," I said. "It's Monday." "I said this week," she snapped. "I can't believe you're turning this into a thing. You don't tell me who to see and when. That's controlling." "I'm not controlling," I said. "I'm matching. Isn't that the point? Symmetry?" "Compersion," she said again, the word like a coin she kept trying to pay with. "It's not tit for tat." "What is it then?" I said. "Because in math, when one side changes, the other side has to move if the equation is going to hold." "You're making this joyless," she said. "I wanted to feel light about us. This makes me want to run." "Where?" I asked, and we both knew the answer. The next day, I was looking for a photo in Chloe's camera roll because she'd asked me to send a picture of the fridge to the landlord so he'd see the handle was wobbly. Her phone lit with texts and muscle memory, almost sent it away, but then a message banner swam up and my eyes held it, not because I wanted to, but because sometimes the truth stands in front of you and refuses politeness. "Rich, he pinged me for a drink tonight. Should I tell him I'm away?" "Chloe, close Lucas for this week. He'll adjust. Metamore training wheels off." "Rich, lol, you're cold." "Chloe, not cold. Efficient. Love you." I didn't swipe, didn't scroll, didn't take screenshots. I stood very still and let the word close do the work my mouth couldn't. Close is a word you use on tabs and mouths and deals. Close is a word you use on cages. I sat with the phone in my hand and realized my heart had been doing a thing I hadn't named, taking breaths shallow like it's expensive. I put the phone down and could hear the AC try to turn the room into a place that could hold two people who were not listening to each other, and I laughed once, a dry sound that made the gecko on the wall behind the bookshelf freeze. That night, I set the phone on the table and looked at Chloe, the way you look at a road sign you pretend is a mural. "What does close Lucas's mean?" I asked. Her face tried on 4 expressions and chose anger like it was a blazer you could wear over anything. "Don't go through my phone," she said. "I didn't," I said. "It went through me." "You're twisting this," she said. It was a joke. "You don't joke about closing people," I said. "I'm not a tab." "Don't be dramatic," she said. "You're making yourself the main character." "It's my life," I said. "I am the main character." She huffed and sat, legs crossed so fast, one sandal snapped against her heel and made a little clap. "I don't owe you my calendar," she said. "You owe me respect," I said. "We owe each other symmetry." I can't believe you're ruining this, she said. We could be so modern. That's when I felt something shift. Not big, not cinematic. On the stove, when a sauce breaks, at first you think you can save it. You whisk and whisper and beg. Then you watch the fat go one way and the water another, and you say, okay, new plan. Symmetry, or we're done, I said. If you want two loves, I get two lives. If you want Mondays with Rich, I get Mondays with someone who says my name like a choice, not an obligation. If you want an umbrella, we learn to share the handle. Or, I walk. She blinked hard, and a tear came fast and hot and honest. You would throw this away? She asked. For a math problem? For a map, I said. If we're open, we're open. Not open like a day at the store where I work while you shop. You're being cruel, she said. I'm being clear, I said. She stood up and crossed her arms and looked toward the door like she'd wonder if the elevator could be called good luck by a person who needed an exit. Fine, she said. Do what you want. I will, I said. And the room got quiet in the way that makes you hear the neighbor's TV and your own blood. I didn't prove anything after that. Proving things is a way to stay close to a person who won't come close to you. I didn't go out and rack up dates like points. I didn't text Maya. I went to work and then to the beach at 10 p.m. where brickle lights made the water look less dirty than it is, and I let the heat push sweat through my shirt like a confession. I called my sister in Orlando, who hates Miami traffic and loves me. Say the thing you don't want to say, she said. She chose him, I said. She chose for her, she said. Who chooses for you? Chloe tried to make me a joke one more time before the end. We were at a little place in Coconut Grove where you eat near a tree that thinks it owns the patio. A client of hers had brought a few people, and I'd come because she'd said there would be aioli and olives, and I am weak. She introduced me as Lucas, my primary, and then added, depending on the day, with a laugh that made the table lean in. I said, I'm Lucas, to a woman across from me with silver hoops and kind eyes. The woman smiled in a way that said she was sorry without having done anything wrong. Later, when Chloe went to the bathroom, she said, You look like you make something with your hands. I make soup, I said. Soup is honest, she said. It doesn't start with a lie. Chloe came back and draped her arm over my chair. What did I miss? She said. You should try this sparkling. I'm good, I said. I wasn't, but I was also done. When the end came, it came in a taxi with cracked leather that stuck to the back of my thighs and air that barely qualified as cold. I told the driver the address of a friend's apartment in Little Haiti. Chloe sat next to me, hands in her lap, knees together, as if good posture could keep a thing from falling. So this is it? She said, voice small in a way that untied something mean in me. I didn't want to know. This is me, I said, choosing one faithful bowl of soup over 3 empty tastings. That's a stupid metaphor, she said, and I smiled because I know. She reached to grab my hand, and I didn't give it. Her fingers slowed and curled back like a wave that had reconsidered the shore. I thought we were bigger than jealousy, she said. So did I said. Turns out we're exactly as big as reciprocity. Don't turn this into a moral, she said, and I almost laughed because when you take the neon away, Miami is a town of people trying to turn pain into a lesson they can sell. The cab rolled past a block of buildings painted like someone dreamt in pastels. I let my head rest against the window and felt calm move through me like a tide that had finally made up its mind. The driver's radio was low and a ballad from somewhere else threaded through the car, Spanish and a guitar and a voice that held its own heart without shaking. When I got out, Chloe didn't follow. The driver put my bag in my hand and said, Buena suerte, like a prayer that didn't require belief. I walked into my friend's place and let the AC hit me like a clean sheet. I stood in the kitchen and drank a glass of water that tasted like honesty because it was tap and I didn't put anything in it and it still did its job. I slept, and the sleep had a shape I recognized from when I was 20 and new in town and thought Miami would chew me up and then realized, you can chew back. The pop-up came late that fall because I owed myself a thing that was mine. I called it One Bowl, and the idea was as simple as I could afford. 1 bowl each night, sold until we ran out. Monday, caldo verde with sausage that made the air love you. Tuesday, pozole that made a man stand in line twice. Wednesday, black bean soup because I like being honest about who fed me. Thursday, tomato that tasted like August, even when it was December because I roasted the hell out of it and added anchovy like a secret. Friday, gumbo because some things hold everything and stay themselves. The first night, Chloe showed up with Rich. I saw them out of the corner of my eye and kept ladling because the line needed feeding. The two of them looked like a magazine where the clothes are the point. She tried to wave. I nodded like you do at people who taught you the word for the weather you were already feeling. When the rush slowed, she came up. "Proud of you," she said. "Thanks," I said. I didn't ask if she wanted a bowl. I didn't offer to comp it. I didn't ask how their metamors were. I wiped the rim of a bowl with my thumb and handed it to a guy who said his mother used to make something like this and started crying in front of his son, who looked at him like nothing in the world was broken.
Don't
"You look
stay there
happy,"
now.
she said, small. "I look like myself," I said. "Rich says," she started, and I shook my head a little because there are sentences a life doesn't need. She nodded and stepped back, and that was it. Not a bang, a click, like a taxi door finally closing. Miami stayed itself, and so did I. The heat flexed, and the rain sprinted, and the Marlins played like they were waiting for permission. I walked to the beach in the mornings on my days off and let the air sit on me like a hand. I cooked, I slept, I didn't open umbrellas I didn't need. Love, it turned out, was not a term. It was the taste in your mouth after you close your door and lean on it and feel your ribs move without permission. It was the person who shows up and respects your hours and your hunger and the way your hands smell like onion and garlic at midnight because food doesn't cook itself. It was me, mostly, learning to be the man who feeds himself before he feeds a room. 2 questions for you. If someone hands you an umbrella of terms, what weather are they hiding, and where does reciprocity end and someone else's schedule begin? If the story landed, leave a comment and subscribe for more.